Hey guys, my name is Ismas and welcome to Top Channel 101, and today we're going to be preparing Italian pasta in a blender, and that's what I'm going to title this video just so I can confuse a lot of people who are trying to prepare actual food into preparing pasta in a blender. I'm not sure how that is going to go, but I hope someone does try it just for the science. And yeah, so for this tutorial it's going to be a time lapse, and I'm just going to be explaining major steps that I'm going to do. So I started with creating the plate. This is going to be the collision surface for the pasta. I'm going to be using cloth simulation to simulate those strands of pastas on the plate. So to simulate the individual strands, what I did was create a plane and scaled it, gave it a few subdivisions so that we can use it in the cloth simulation. The reason for why I used this plane instead of a cylinder is because I wanted to reduce on the geometry that was going to be used in the scene, as we are going to need a lot of strands, as you can see from the reference image. And for the thickness, I just added solidified modifier under the cloth modifier, and this way modifier is not added into the simulation to increase the computation power. And make sure for your strands you add a self collision with a 0.005 thickness in the self collision settings, so that the strands don't intersect with each other. Also make sure that the plate or the collision surface also has a thickness outer of something like 0.005, so that they don't float on the surface of the plane. So I simulated the first strand and duplicated it around, and then applied the cloth simulation, and then duplicated that, making sure that all the geometry are still as a single mesh, so that a self collision is possible. I duplicated them and moved them around just to have more pasta on the plate, and I used the solidify modifier to add the thickness, but then I realized that it wasn't giving me the rounded shape of pasta that I wanted, so I deleted the solidify modifier and also part of the mesh, so that is just a single edge loop of the strand, and then converted the entire mesh into a curve that I then added a bevel object to get the thickness. That way I can easily control the thickness of the pasta by just changing the shape of the bevel object or the bevel profile. So after that, I just duplicated that around, and just to make the plate look a bit full. And I was also trying to test out if I could do a simulation, a soft body simulation with curve objects. So what I'm doing here, I selected the entire batch of curves and then started almost like sculpting them, but just selecting a single strand and then turning on proportional editing and just moving it around. So this is the bevel profile that I'm using to control the overall profile of the curves. If you want to get the project file so that you can look at the materials I used here, it's going to be on my Patreon page. That is patreon.com/topchannel101, or on my CG Trader account. If you don't want to be a subscriber on my Patreon, you can just get this file directly there. So for the materials, I just used a simple principal shader and gave it a base color. I also tried to experiment with a subsurface color just to see how it would look. The materials don't look really great in Eevee, but in Perfect I think they came out quite nicely. That's why you see me switch between Eevee and Cycles time to time, just so that I can see a faster preview and a much more realistic view with Cycles. I also wanted to have some variation in the spaghettis. That's why you see that I'm adding a noise texture to make it look like there is some sauce on the pasta, and so I'm just using a noise map and then passing that through a color ramp just to colorize everything there. So the seasoning is just a simple cube with a white surface material, and using the particle system I distributed that on top of that. I used a weight paint to tell Blender what parts where the seasoning should go on the surface of the material. Again, as you can see, I'm trying to experiment with with the scatter add-on, which is a nice add-on. You can find a link in the description if you want to get it for yourself. Yeah, so I thought my scene looked a bit plain, so I borrowed some objects that I had created for a previous video. I can see some avocados here, so I placed them into the scene just so I can have my scene look more full. Yeah, so mostly that's it. I'm just going to let the video play because I think the parts that needs to be explained have already been done, but you can continue watching and see the entire process, because I still have to do the lighting and also work on the materials just to make them a little bit better, and work on the composition as well. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Don't forget to get the project files from my Patreon page, that is patreon.com/topchannel1on1, or my CG Trader account, cgtrader.com/ismailsvfx. Thank you.